Alyssa demonstrates quite good receptive abilities. She expresses a desire to speak Spanish in order to communicate better with her grandparents, as well as maintain cultural continuity. The experience of the Bayers' parents in their youth is particularly indicative of the poor treatment of bilingual and ESL people in the US. In Zen Teller's article, Jose, Can You See? Latinx Responses to Racist Discourse, the author explains that Spanish language use in New York is considered offensive and out of place in the public domain, unless occurring in a specifically ethnic marked space, such as a festival or restaurant. Bilingual practices such as code switching are almost universally disdained, and the author believes this censoring creates tension and insecurity for bilinguals. Thus, it is evident how the dominant discourse around language use in society, namely that English should be the only language used in the public domain, impacts on language use not only for the specific bilingual people censored, but for the generations thereafter. Duff further explains how identity is impacted by this legacy, writing that language socialization, which takes place against the backdrop of earlier discrimination, carries pressures to assimilate to the dominant language community at the expense of the heritage language. Consistent with Alyssa Bayers' desire to improve her Spanish, however, Duff counters that such earlier socio-political pressures that resulted in language loss by older generations may inspire effort in younger generations to revitalize their language use. In the discussion section of the article, Schecter and Bayley comment that the families are similar in their identities, in that all maintain allegiance to their Mexican heritage. The families do differ, however, in how they view Spanish language as a tool for affirming and enacting that identity. Their views with regards to the role of schools also differ. The Texas families believe school has an obligation to help them maintain their cultural and linguistic identity, whereas the Californian families agree with the dominant ideology that school is a place to acquire academic competence in the dominant societal language, and it is solely the family's responsibility to maintain cultural identity. The authors suggest that differing socio-cultural ecologies could be responsible for these differing views. For example, the participation of extended family in the children's lives and the presence or absence of a significant Mexican origin population in the family's locality may be relevant factors. Next, the article discusses the implication of the case study. They specifically cite Zenteller's condemnation for the chiquitification of US Latinx, that is, the tendency of popular media and academia to present residents originating from Mexico, Central America, and Spanish-speaking Caribbean countries as a homogeneous and threatening group. The authors suggest that this article goes some way to reversing this trend by showing the diversity of beliefs and opinions among people who all share a sense of belonging to a Mexican or Mexican-American culture. They comment that the idea of intergenerational language transmission is not as simple as it may seem, as even within the case study families, there is variation in how this goal is interpreted. For example, the Villegas parents equate Spanish maintenance with the transmission of an upper-class dialect which is not spoken by any of the other families. I believe this article was indeed effective in painting a complex picture of the families studied, subverting the chiquitification trope so pervasive in media and academia. However, I believe in order for the article to have more use in applied linguistics context, the author should have attempted to more explicitly explain and critique dominant and institutional perspectives of ethnic identity and language use as relevant to the families. For example, what were the policies of the school which made them decide to place the Villegas' son in a bilingual program against specific instructions from his parents to the contrary? Where did all of the families gain the impression that they had to speak exclusively English with their children in order for them to properly integrate in school? I believe answers to these questions can put to use the valuable perspectives brought together in this article to improve educational experiences for Mexican American and other linguistic minority students in the US and overseas. Our discussion questions for this article are: firstly, what implications do you believe post-structuralist understandings of identity as unstable and fluid have for education of linguistically diverse students? Secondly, do you believe it is solely the parents' responsibility to maintain their cultural and linguistic heritage for their children, or should educational institutions also play a part? Finally, what further studies should be done to subvert the Chicwitification trend in the current media and academia in the US? Thank you for listening.